everybody. My name is Blimie Heller. I'm a parenting coach and educator who is super passionate about supporting parents in building relationships with their children based on respect and trust. So I am taking over OK Clarity's live today to answer your parenting questions. Hi, everybody. Hey, everybody who's here. So I have some questions that were submitted. Hi, your name, I forgot your name. Shifra. Hi, Shifra. I have questions that were submitted to me ahead of time, but anybody who's here can also submit questions. I'll be here till 9:30, so whatever questions I get to, and we'll see how many those will be. So you're welcome to ask any questions here. You're welcome to ask any questions here, and I'm going to go through the questions that I received ahead of time. Okay, so the first question I got was, how do I deal with a 7-year-old that steals and lies? Okay, so let's go through it, okay? Now, if some of you might be more familiar with my approach, some of you might be less familiar. I mean, it's not really my approach, but the approach that I like to give over to parents and that I like to practice as a parent myself. So behavior is communication. That's the first thing. So when a child steals and lies, a lot of times our immediate instinct is to simply look at the behavior itself and be like, oh my goodness, the child is engaging in this behavior. What do I do about it? How do I navigate it? What should I do? Right? And then we try to find different ways of discouraging the child from stealing and, or maybe punishing them for stealing or maybe, whatever it is. Now, of course, I think that talking about the behavior itself is definitely important. That behavior is not okay, right? However, for me, I'm curious about the why. I'm first really curious about what is the child communicating to me when they're stealing and lying? Why are they stealing and lying? Every single behavior is there designed to meet a need. Every single one. That's really the motivation behind behavior. The reason why we even engage in behaviors is to meet our needs. And so I really want to understand what need is behind this child doing that. By the way, I want to say, I recently spoke with a child who, yes, I don't want to give too much information, so just to be careful, to protect their identity. This child explained to me how sometimes this child would engage in really outrageous behavior, and over the years, all the adults in this child's life would only look at the behavior and be like, oh my goodness, this behavior is not okay, and they would do whatever. And this person said that none of the adults ever looked deeper, they took all her behavior at face value and never looked deeper as to where it was coming from, why she was engaging in that behavior. And she said she always felt so unseen, so unheard, and everybody was missing the point. And so that really spoke very close to my heart, because I really am very much of the belief that behavior is communication. Okay, so 7-year-old stealing or lying, why? Now, again, I don't know why. I don't know this 7-year-old, so I have no idea why this child is doing what they're doing. Hi, everybody who's joining. Hi. You're welcome to ask any parenting questions. I'm here for a little bit, and we'll see how many I can get through too. So this child who is stealing or lying, why? I don't know why. There's many different possibilities why a child might steal or lie, right? There's different needs that it could meet for a child. So I'll give a few examples just so you get an idea. Okay, well, let's take them apart, because stealing and lying are two different behaviors. Let's say a child who steals, right? It could be the child is stealing because it's for a need for play or stimulation. They see a toy that they really like and really want, and they have this need for enjoyment and fun. And so they're like, oh, if I take this toy, I'll have that fun, right? And so that they take it for that reason. With younger children, sometimes that's the case. Or maybe it's because they have a need for belonging. So if they take this thing, people will then look at them more in a more admiring way. Or people might be like, oh, you have that thing? Now you're one of us. Right now, again, there's so many reasons why a child. Now, lying. Children might lie because they want to, again, they're trying to protect themselves because they want to make sure that, again, they're treated with respect, or that they are safe, or they want to, again, also belong, or feel like people look at them, look up to them, and think that they're, not look at them weirdly, or think that they're one of us, or whatever. There's so many different reasons why a child might do that. Now, every single parent needs to figure out with their specific child what it is. Now, here's where parents get really, what's the word that I'm looking for? Not confused, but lost. And they say like, okay, so I'll ask my child, why did you steal? My child says, because I wanted to. Or why do you lie? Because I want to, right? And it's like, my child's not giving me answers. Why are you telling me to figure out why? They have no clue why. And I always say, yeah, your child most likely will have no idea why they do what they do. It's not conscious. It's not like, oh, I have this need, so I will do this in order to get that need met. No, it's instinctual. It's subconscious. We have a need, it comes into our body, and then we have an impulse to act in a certain way. And so the child will then act in that way. When my computer with the questions are turned off, the child will then have the impulse to act in that way and to get their need met. They have no idea why they're doing it. By the way, a lot of the time, hi Rifki, a lot of the time, I don't know why I do what I do. I don't know what the need is behind what I'm doing. So then what do we do? How do we figure it out? And this is where, it's a little bit of an art, but I believe every single parent can really learn it to understand where our children are coming from and why they do what they do. And that's really, like I said, it's engaging in a specific kind of conversation with our child in order to discover what's going on underneath it. So it might look something like, I see this thing that doesn't belong to you that's over here. Want to tell me what this is or what's going on with it? And then the child might say, again, every child might react differently. If a child is used to getting punished a lot or whatever, they might, be like, I didn't take it. It's or whatever. They might say something like to defend themselves, or, and so that could be a little trickier to navigate, right? Because then the child has to feel safe in order to be able to share more. And so, we might say like, yeah. So, again, you have to follow the child. Well, let's say a child does say something like, yeah, I have that toy. And so the parent would then say something like, yeah, so I'm curious, like, I don't recognize the toy. I'm curious how it got here. And the child says, I wanted it, right? And so the parent says, yeah, you really wanted that toy. Yeah, I wanted it, right? And so sort of like that, following the child, and slowly the child gives information that then helps us guess. Now, again, if we're familiar with needs, it's really, really helpful. When I first learned about this whole entire approach, I actually downloaded a list of needs and put it on my fridge, and I would refer to it because, like I said, children don't know why they do what they do. So in order to be able to tell, we can guess, right? And so we can guess, and we can say like, yeah, is it that you really just wanted to have fun and that's why you took that thing? Like, you wanted it. It looked so fun and enjoyable and you wanted it. Is that why you took it? Right? And then the child might say, yeah, I wanted to have something fun like that. And so then it becomes clear, like, oh, the child probably wanted it for like fun, play, something like that. And so once you understand why the child did it, then you can go on to the next part, right? So the first part is to understand why. So then you can say, oh yeah, you really wanted to play and that's why you got it. Now why do I think it's so important for parents to discover why the child is doing what they're doing? There's so many reasons why I think it's important. But I really truly believe that when we help a child understand why it is that they did what they did, we're creating self-awareness. Like I said, they have no idea why they're doing what they're doing. But here we create the awareness of like, oh, this is why I did this thing. And then that then helps them be able to find better solutions to their problems the next time, find better ways to meet their needs the next time. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's a process. So it might look like something like this, like, oh yeah, okay, so it looked fun, it looked enjoyable, you really wanted fun and play, and so you took that thing that doesn't belong to you, right? And so that's the thing, is that it doesn't belong to you. And if something doesn't belong to you, you can't take it because it belongs to somebody else. And that other person who it belongs to, I imagine that they also probably maybe, what do you think they might be feeling? Sad, disappointed that they lost something that's theirs, right? Oh, thank you, Amuna. Or maybe that's not your name, whoever you are. So it's so important to them, right? So sort of creating this awareness of like the impact of their actions and also what isn't okay. And then you might say like, so if you really want something fun and enjoyable and you see something that you want so badly, what else can you do? Because taking somebody's thing is not okay, right? But what else can you do? Like, what are other ideas that you can think of to get that like fun and enjoyment? And then we brainstorm together. It's like, maybe you can ask them if you can borrow it for a little bit. That might be an idea. We have to respect if they say no, or maybe you can come home and share that you really want that, you saw that thing and it looks so fun and you want it too, and maybe it's something that we could consider getting, maybe for a special occasion, maybe not, maybe whatever, right? And so for me, this is how I really like to deal with it. There's so many, like I said, there are so many reasons why, and I'm like, I see the time and I'm concerned about spending so much time explaining so much of the process and so much of why I believe, and in my understanding and my experience, it's so beneficial to do this. But that's the basic idea. And the same thing would be with a lying. It's understand what need it's meeting. Then once you understand, bring that to the child's attention, like make it clear that, oh, that's what the need is. Again, we always need to, we don't know what the need is. We're always guessing, but that child then helps us. When we guess, the child helps us, we become more clear about what it is. Then we say, this is why the way that you met the need is not okay, but here are other ways you might be able to meet the need. Now with lying, I want to say that a lot of times a child might lie because, again, what did I say? They want to meet their need for safety. They want to make sure that they're not going to get in trouble, or they're not going to be yelled at, or something like that. And so then in that case, sometimes it falls back on us to make it safe for them to say the truth. Like if we start discovering why they lied and we realize it's because they were really afraid that they were going to, get punished or not get the prize or whatever, then we might want to ask ourselves, how can I then maybe change things so the child feels more safe to say the truth? Again, we want to emphasize saying the truth, and we want to emphasize, other ways that they can get their need met for safety. But between you and me, if a child doesn't feel safe with their parent to say the truth, it is very, very hard to get them to say the truth. We are hardwired for self-preservation, and a child will very likely, do whatever they need to do in order to feel safe. I mean, most of us do, right? And so we want to try to create an environment of safety where children feel safe to say the truth. Okay, that's as much as I'll say for that question. Again, you're welcome to ask any question, anybody who's here. I'm going to go on to the next question that I received. When my toddler has tantrums or just starts crying, I get extremely overwhelmed and can't deal with it properly. I know all the steps for calming him down, but I just can't do it. How do I calm myself so I can calmly handle the situation? So I actually love that this parent at the end, their question was, how do I help myself so that I can navigate the situation? Now, I changed the wording because I'll tell you for that last bit, because let me explain something. See, this parent says, how can I calm myself so I can calmly handle the situation? I am not a huge fan of the word calm. Well, I don't know how to say this, or the idea of calm, because I believe it makes a lot of sense to not be calm. When a child is having a tantrum or crying, it makes sense to feel overwhelmed. It makes sense to feel irritated, right? It's very, very understandable and very normal to feel those things. And in a way, when in those moments we think like, I need to be calm. I need to find a way to calm myself. I need to be calm, right? It actually makes us only more overwhelmed or more irritated. Now we're judging ourselves for the way that we're feeling. And so I'm not a huge fan of trying to be calm. What I am a fan of, and this is kind of answers your question in a way, is I'm a fan of connecting to whatever emotion we are feeling. When we connect to whatever emotion or emotions we are feeling, we find groundedness. And with that groundedness, then we're able to be present, okay? So when a child is having a tantrum or crying, yes, it's very, very understandable. And again, every parent is in a different place on their journey. Like some parents are in a place where like they really are more or less, it doesn't faze them and they're able to just be there through the tantrum and, help and the child, oh, that's another part that I'm realizing here in the question. The parent says, I know all the steps for calming him down. And that stood out to me as well, because for me, I don't necessarily believe that it's a parent's job to calm their child down. The same way I said, I don't think it's a parent's job to calm themselves down, right? I don't think it's a parent's job to calm their child down. I really strongly believe that a child's emotions, a child's feelings is not the parent's job. It's the child's job to feel it. And it's a parent's job to be present for it, to be there so the child's not alone with it. The same way like I said to the parent, I want the parent to connect to what they're feeling. I want us to connect to what the child is feeling. That's it. And when we need to, when we have this idea that we need to help a child calm down, right? We need to make them calm down. It's so exhausting for a parent to have to manage all of that. And so for me, it's like, no, actually, that's not your job. You don't have to make your child calm down. You don't have to go through steps for them to calm down. Guess what? Emotions are designed to move. Feelings are designed to move. They're a wave. They come in, they peak, they go out, they leave. When they're welcome, they move. And so our job is to welcome them and to simply be there so the child's not alone with it. They feel supported and the emotion moves. Now, again, is it irritating? Is it loud? Is it noisy? Is it messy while they're moving through it? Absolutely. And that's why it makes a lot of sense for us to feel however we feel, irritated, frustrated, overwhelmed. And what I would love for this parent specifically asking this question is, in those moments, to simply connect to what you're feeling. Right now, again, what does it mean to connect to what you're feeling? People are like, okay, so connect. Like, I don't know what you're saying, right? So connecting, hold on, I'm looking for, oops, did I miss connecting to what we're feeling looks something like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so overwhelmed and so irritated by this tantrum and this noise. I wish it would just pass. I don't have time for it. I don't have space for it right now. This is hard for me. Oh my gosh, this is hard. I don't know. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot to be a parent. I just so wish for peace and harmony right now. Just peace. Imagine if I didn't have to hear this right now. How much would I love that, right? Just connecting to what you're feeling inside. And when we do that, when we connect to our feelings, and really more than that, our needs, that's why I said peace. I want peace right now and harmony, right? When we connect to that, there's a certain, like I said, there's a certain groundedness that enters our body. Not calm necessarily, but groundedness. And then we're able to be more present with ourselves. And then naturally, we're just more present with our child. And our child, again, their emotions are going to do their thing, and it moves, and then it's over. So, but I want to say that this is, it sounds wonderful and beautiful when I say it here, right? It sounds like, oh, that's such an easy, beautiful process. But obviously in real life, it's a lot messier. And it's a journey for all of us. Like, nobody has it all figured out, and nobody's going to, oh, I heard this, to do in this live, and then the next time they're able to do it. I think those unrealistic expectations are actually make us feel pretty defeated, because in real life, we're like, oh, great, okay, I'm going to welcome my own feelings, and then I'm going to be grounded, and then in real life the child has their tantrum, and you just get all lost and do all kinds of things, and that's understandable because you're learning, and because it's a huge journey to take what we know into what we do, and it's a practice, and slowly over time we become more and more familiar with welcoming the emotion, welcoming, connecting, and welcoming to the emotion, to the feeling in our own body. And then welcoming our child's feeling, and welcoming our own feeling, welcoming our child's feeling. And then slowly, as you do this more and more, as we do this more and more, because I'm very much still on the journey as well, we become more and more trusting of the process. And then it becomes something that's more like, becomes easier and easier and easier for us to relax into. I know that might sound crazy at this point that I'm saying that, but that's definitely been my experience, that sometimes I am able to relax into it. Not always, though. Sometimes, even after doing it for as many years as I'm doing, or practicing it, sometimes I'm just in a moment where a lot of my needs have not been met. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm frustrated, I'm irritated by something else. And so it's harder. And that makes a lot of sense. We're only human. We're only human. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Again, if you're here, you're welcome to ask. I'm on here until 9:30. Okay. I'm single now, but hope to build a family one day. As someone with a mental illness, how do I know the right things to tell a child when they do something wrong and I need to reprimand them? I don't want to overdo it, and at the same time, I do want it to be effective. Yeah, this is like probably most parents' question, right? So yeah, I want to say that I don't believe that any of us really know what the correct or the right thing to do is, and I don't know if I believe that there really is one correct and right way to do? Do I have a very strong belief about what I want to do with my own children? Or do I have a very strong belief about how I wish children were treated? Yes. But all of us are trying. We're all really following what we believe is best. Now, again, I imagine you're asking, what do you believe is best? You're asking me, what do you think is the right way to do it, right? And I touched on that before with a parent who asked a child who steals or lies. And for me, the sweet balance sort of between helping children, like you said, reprimanding, right? And you put that in quotes because, I don't love that word either. I guess maybe you don't either. Yes, we do want to correct children. We do want to help them do better. We do want them to act in ways that that are considerate and kind of other people's needs, right? And that also meet their own needs. We want children to do that. And at the same time, we also want to preserve their sense of self and their dignity and worth and etc. And sometimes parents, like you said, you struggle, like you don't want to overdo it, meaning for them to feel badly about themselves, but you also want it to be effective. Not that like, oh, you just say something and it does nothing or it doesn't mean anything and the child is just, running amok and doing whatever. So for me, the sweet spot between that is what I mentioned before with a child, is when we see the child's need before we go on to correct them and tell them how to do it differently or find ways with them to do it differently. When we see the child's need, what we're doing is we're actually preserving a huge, really their entire sense of self. And I'll explain to you why. So think about this for yourself. Imagine that one of you, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know. You were really upset and you said something obnoxious to someone, okay? Now, imagine somebody came over to you and says whoa, that was obnoxious. That is not okay. You do not talk that way to other people. Next time, if you're really upset about something, then take a deep breath and say, I'm upset, whatever, okay? Now, think about how you would feel if someone said that to you. I think many of us would become full of shame, right? Maybe also very defensive. Maybe we would also feel but we feel the sense of wait, hold on, but you don't understand, you don't see me. You don't understand why I did this thing. You can tell me, any of you here, if you want to share how you would feel if somebody approached you in that way, if you did something. If you spoke in an obnoxious way to somebody in a heated moment and somebody came to you in that way, how would you feel? You can share if you want to. So many of us would feel that way, and children especially, their parents are their everything. They're their authority figures in their lives. And when a parent then reprimands them that way, a child can become very, very full of shame or very defensive, which really stems from the same thing, and have a very hard time really taking the lesson that the parent is trying to teach them because they're so full of shame. Or they might take the lesson but conclude, I'm a bad person, or I don't, whatever it is. And in some way that affects their sense of self. However, imagine if somebody came over to you and said oh yeah, were you really, really upset before? And that's why you spoke, or irritated before, and that's why you spoke in an obnoxious way. And you would say, yes, I feel so terrible about it, but that is why I was just completely so, irritated that I said it, and then I just felt so terrible. And the person says, yes, I totally get that. You really wanted to get a certain message across because you were so irritated, but you regret the way that you said it, right? So next time you do feel something like that, how else can you say it? Whatever. Again, maybe it's not their job to do that. But how do you feel now? You feel like the person actually trusts that you're a good person underneath your obnoxious action, because they see your intention. They see the need that you were trying to meet. And in that way, they send a very strong message, a felt sense almost of, I know that you had a beautiful reason to do what you did. I trust that there was a reason why you did what you did. Again, was what you did okay? No. Is it hurtful? Yes. Should you do it again? Please try not to, right? All those things still stand, but they're still seeing your intentions. They're still trusting that you're a good person underneath, that there's a beautiful reason why you do the things. And that preserves their sense of self. And so that's why I believe it's so important to lead with that, did you do that because of this? And again, even if you're wrong, even if you never really figure out why they did what they did, just to guess already gives a child a sense of, you are curious to see why I did it. You trust that I had a beautiful reason. even if you're telling me this was not okay at all, right? And not only does it preserve the child's sense of self, but because it does, the child is then much more moved to and feels much more capable than, for many children, to then shift and change their behavior. Then the shame doesn't hold them back, and they're able to, then when we say like, well, next time you feel really frustrated and irritated, what's another way that you can communicate that? What's another way that you can let somebody know, right? Then they feel much more moved to, or much more empowered to, thank you, Rifki, much more empowered to then choose that behavior the next time, or to know what to do or how to navigate themselves. And they're already also getting so much more awareness about themselves and why they do the things that they do. So for me, that's really the way I like to do it. So again, so just walk you through that. It's really 3 steps. The first is to see the need, right? And really guess it, see it, try to understand it. The second one is to share why the behavior is not okay, or that it's not okay, or how it impacts other people or themselves in a negative way. And then the third is to say, well, in order to meet this need, what are other strategies? What are other my words are not coming out properly. What are other ways that you can get this need met in the future? What are other strategies that you can use? Because children are not great the younger they are, the less great they are at problem solving. They're not great at solving their problems, and that's why they'll resort to behaviors that are not really that great to meet their needs or to solve their problem. And so the third step is to help them find other ways to solve their problems. So that's the basic idea. And for me, I find that it's super effective. Again, it might sound very new to many of you. I know it definitely sounded new to me. It's also, even though it's an idea that I'm sharing here, and a fairly simple idea in a way, I know that in practice, it's sometimes a lot more challenging, right? First of all, because sometimes we're very in a moment when our child does something that's not okay, our own reaction comes up. We get really worried, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my child is acting in this way. Or we become really, fearful, terrified, like, oh my gosh, what if they're going to do this in 20 years? Or sometimes we become really angry, like, how dare you do something like that? Or there's just so many reactions that we have as parents, which is so understandable. And we might then find it hard to respond in the way that I spoke about, which is so understandable. And each of us are, like I said, somewhere on their journey. We're all human. We're all, it's understandable. And it's a process to slowly learn how to integrate this, meaning like, even though it's an idea that's fairly simple to explain, it's a lot harder to implement it or to practice it. And I believe that every person is capable of it, but it takes time. It takes time and it takes repetition, and it takes, for me, it took really also being exposed to the idea again and again and again, and practicing in a moment when I wasn't, full of anger, overwhelm, or my own emotions. It was also a lot about learning to connect to my own emotions, welcome my own emotions instead of acting on them. So yeah, that basically hopefully answers that question. So I see the time. We're basically at our 9:30 mark almost. There's 2 more minutes left. If any of these ideas resonated with you or you want to hear more, I have a course coming up on July 3rd, in about a week, where I share all these ideas and concepts, but like really, really broken down. And I show video demonstrations, and I'm going to do a live demonstration with my sister for what these looks like, so that you can learn, like I said, it can really become something that you can integrate slowly. Also, you'll learn a lot more pieces and parts to it that will make it maybe clearer to you. So that brings us to the end of the half hour. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, OK Clarity, for giving me this platform to share tonight. And I hope to see you all. Oh, I also have an account. Oh, I think you can see my account, right? Okay. Anyway, my account's Unconditional Parenting. If you want, you can follow me there if you don't already. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.